Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today we've got another video for you on Battleship North Carolina. Their staff has graciously been showing us around their ship, which still has a lot of her World War II era features on board that Battleship New Jersey lost over the years. One of those features, and one that you guys ask about constantly, is the float plane and catapult mechanism back here on the fantail. Today's video is sponsored by Rustic & Main. Rustic & Main makes rings like this one, which are made out of reclaimed wood. Mine is made out of the teak wood deck of Battleship New Jersey, but they also have one that's made out of Battleship North Carolina's teak. Check the link in the description for their website. They also do things out of like reclaimed whiskey barrels and other cool things like that. Don't get a traditional gold wedding band. Pick up something from Rustic & Main. American battleships and many cruisers were designed to carry spotting planes like this one. The American fast battleships in particular had 2 catapults on the fantail and a crane, and they were designed to carry 3 aircraft. The battleships do not have a hangar, but most of the cruisers, even some of the 10,000-ton light cruisers, had a hangar at the stern because their stern was a little bit deeper and they could keep the aircraft in an enclosed space and do maintenance on them. While these ships were designed to carry up to 3 aircraft, 1 on each catapult and 1 in the middle, oftentimes during the war they only carried 2 because radar sort of made them redundant. The interwar period showed that aircraft like these would probably be vital in a conventional war. They didn't foresee the modern electronics that these ships would be equipped with by the early 40s. So, Battleship North Carolina's aircraft on display is a Vought OS-2U Kingfisher. That's the same kind of aircraft that New Jersey was built with originally. New Jersey got newer models of aircraft by the end of the war and then replaced them entirely with helicopters in future wars. This is the sort of aircraft that Battleship New Jersey carried throughout most of the Pacific War, including the raid on Truk Lagoon, the Battle of the Philippine Sea, and the Battle of Leyte Gulf. So how does an aircraft like this work? There were a pair of catapults back here, and you can see the mounting point for it here on the deck. Unfortunately, post-war, all of the catapults were removed from the remaining American battleships and scrapped because they weren't needed anymore. There were helicopters at that point, and helicopters were way more effective. The catapult is a scary proposition. It's not particularly long. You can see it goes back close to where the back of the plane is here, near the 40mm gun tub. And it comes up, and it's only got to about this 20mm gun tub. When you were going to use it, it rotates off the side of the ship, pointing the aircraft in that direction. There's a magazine beneath us that would hold black powder charges, and the black powder is what would be used to shoot the plane into the air. An aircraft like this is pretty light. Unloaded, only 1.5 tons. Loaded, barely more than 2 tons. So it's pretty light. It only needs to be catapulted up to about 50 miles per hour, and its broad wings will create lift. When you're landing the aircraft, that's a kind of difficult proposition. It's got pontoons under it so it can land in the water, but in the middle of the ocean, there's going to be waves. That's going to be an issue. These aircraft's engines are combustion engines, so they get hot. And when they land in the seawater, the water is cold. So the water hitting those engines can cause cylinders to crack and cause damage to them. And battleships don't have hangars to do maintenance work like the cruisers do. So what you would do is use the wake of the ship. The ship is leaving a smooth patch behind it because she's so broad. And so the aircraft can use that basically as a landing area. For about 2 miles behind the ship, you've got a broad, smooth patch. The ship would be towing a large canvas sled, and the pilot, once he hit the water, would taxi onto that sled until a hook on the front of his pontoon would catch. So at that point, he's being towed by the moving battleship. You notice there's a crane overhead. that crane can slant around 360 degrees, so it can reach over the aircraft and lower a hook. At that point, the pilot has to climb out of his cockpit and hook the crane onto the top of his aircraft so that the crane can pick it up and place it back on the catapult. The Japanese developed long-range scouting aircraft that their cruisers and battleships could use, but American aircraft were much more limited. Their aircraft carrier aircraft did the scouting. These aircraft are specifically for spotting the fall of the main battery's guns, and so they've got a relatively short range, maybe about 900 miles for this one at economical cruising speed. So it can only stay in the air for a couple of hours. It's not going out and doing a search, and you don't have enough aircraft to launch a search pattern. So it is looking for the Japanese fleet on the horizon. So within the 20 miles of the ship's guns. From the top of the spotting tower, you can maybe see 13 miles. So for longer range shooting, you would need one of these aircraft, the Navy thought, to see where the shells are landing. Of course, during World War II, are radars, and that renders this kind of obsolete, because the explosions from a 16-inch shell go so high in the air, you can even pick them up on the air search radar sets. Battleship New Jersey would love to acquire a Kingfisher or other similar float plane like this. If you have one in your backyard, shoot me an email. If you come on board today, the battleship is in her 1990s configuration, and as such has a Cayman Sea Sprite helicopter that you can view. I'd love to get more examples of the types of aircraft she carried, including a Dragonfly helicopter, a Seahawk like this one, and an RPV drone. Interestingly, aviation personnel like this were not part of the ship's company. They came from a separate squadron whose aircraft would be divided among the different battleships and cruisers. Check the link in the description for a pictorial history book about the types of float planes that the US Navy used during World War II. Also, check the link in the description for a link to Battleship North Carolina's YouTube channel, if you'd like to support them out. And check the link for today's video sponsor, Rustic & Main. Rustic & Main make the rings out of reclaimed wood like mine. Mine has a gold band in it, for those of you who like the traditional. Teak wood deck on the outside, reclaimed from Battleship New Jersey, and oak reclaimed from a whiskey barrel on the inside. It's a pretty cool ring, and it's something that probably none of your friends are going to have with their bland gold rings. Battleship New Jersey also receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State. What's your favorite type of World War II aircraft? Let us know in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching.